I mentioned before the break, we are about to hear from Brian Snur and then Joe Quinn, and then we will move to public testimony. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that before we get started on it. Brian?
Thank you. My name is Brian Snur, General Legal Counsel for North Highline Fire District. My address is 612 South 227th Street, Des Moines, Washington, 98198. With me this evening are Commissioner Liz Giva, who is here, and Commissioner Dominic Ferreira is sitting right back there. Honorable board members, North Highline Fire District is opposed to this annexation until such time as the City of Seattle provides a detailed and comprehensive plan for how it will provide fire protection and emergency medical services to the North Highline area and how it will address the impacts in North Burien. Another way to say this, perhaps, is we think that this board has an obligation to consider what the city has called the operational issues. And if the city hasn't resolved the operational issues before it is asking this board to approve the annexation, then the annexation should be denied. And I think that is required if we look at your factors and objectives, as I will in a few minutes. So we have submitted a written statement. I hope you all received it in advance. I'm not going to read the written statement to you, but I am available to answer questions if you have them, and this talk will be supplemental. As we all know, we've been here many times talking about annexations of North Highline. If this annexation is approved by the board and approved by the voters, North Highline Fire District will cease to exist for all practical purposes. There could be a little area sliver by the river in Delta Green if that's not approved, and that's addressed in my written materials. But for purposes of this discussion, we can assume that if the annexation is approved, North Highline Fire District will cease to exist. So that might lead some of you to wonder, so why does North Highline Fire District care? If it goes away, Seattle's got a great fire department, they've got the capacity to provide services, why would North Highline Fire District oppose this when the last 4 or 5 times we've been before you, all we've asked for is to just have somebody take the whole thing and stop the piecemeal annexations. The reason is the Board of Fire Commissioners cares about what its obligation is to its citizens. The Board of Fire Commissioners has a single purpose. It's a great thing about being a commissioner of a fire district. Your single purpose is to look out for fire protection and emergency medical services of the citizens you serve. And at the present time, they don't have the answers that they need to be able to support this annexation. We don't question the fact that the City of Seattle has the operational capacity to provide the service to this area, to even improve the services in this area. But based on the evidence that's been presented to the board so far, based on the evidence that we're aware of, there's no guarantee that Seattle has the political will or ability to provide its fire department with the resources necessary to provide the services, particularly the ALS services. There's also a significant issue involving North Burien. Mr. Quinn will be speaking about that, so I'm not going to talk about it a lot, but simply point out that North Burien used to be part of North Highline Fire District, and it is a significant impact that our board is also concerned about because we currently provide those services through a contract, and if we disappear, we won't be there to fulfill that obligation. The city filed this notice of intention almost a year ago, or a little over a year ago. It wasn't until May of this year, when we were notified by the Van Review Board that we were having this hearing, that we reached out to the City of Seattle and asked them for their plan to provide services. There was no communication from the city prior to that time. In response to our question, the city did come and meet with the Board of Commissioners. The city responded to a laundry list of questions, which we appreciate because there were a lot of questions, and we got the responses. The challenge with the responses is a lot of them, I think, fall into this category the city mentioned about these are operational issues. You know, trust us, we'll take care of the operational issues when the time is right. Well, we think that the time is right now when they have to be answered. And we'd ask this board don't believe that you can approve the annexation simply based on the general statements or the unilateral promises of Seattle to do what's right for North Highline. They've had plenty of time to plan this annexation. They should be coming forward with specific concrete proposals, agreements that would address ALS issue, agreements that would address the North Erie issue. And absent those agreements, I think the annexation needs to be denied. Your factors and objectives support this approach. 3693-170 requires that the board consider as a factor of the annexation the existence of applicable service agreements. What that really means is service agreements, what they deal with is they deal with the operational issues. If the city was here with a proposed agreement that would enter into automatic aid with District 2 or with King County Medic 1 to address the ALS issue, we would have nothing to oppose because then our response times would be managed. The written materials, we did answer the question about the response time currently for ALS, and it's average of 6 minutes. So the city's going to provide ALS under the current plan, the evidence you have from Station 32, which I noted isn't even reflected on the map. So that's how far away it is. I mean, they recognize that it's a problem. And we appreciate that. Our position is until they have a concrete solution, the annexation's not ready to move forward. Maybe they need another year. Maybe they need to come back with an actual plan. And we're not just kind of crying wolf. We've all been here talking about North Highline annexation for a long time. The 2008 MOU, which has been discussed, and the annexation framework, which has been discussed. Under those documents, Seattle agreed to work together to develop service agreements. The annexation framework provided that the City of Seattle would work collaboratively with North Highline to optimize response times through reciprocal service arrangements in areas of need. Those documents were entered into 8 years ago. Yet I'm standing here right now, 8 years later, when they finally start pushing the annexation forward again. We don't have those collaborative agreements. We don't have those service agreements that would address the operational issues that truly trouble the board. So this is a significant factor in this annexation that we're required to consider, and the absence of any service agreements is a critical issue and does not support approving the annexation. The other factors that we ask you to consider relate to the need for municipal services in this area, the cost and adequacy of municipal services in this area, and how that will change if Seattle annexes it. This is a significant boundary change. The current service areas in North Highline have been developed over decades of political boundaries historically created, and the fact that while Seattle's been a great mutual aid partner with surrounding regions for large events, Seattle has been, as I think was mentioned here, they're not a reliable automatic aid partner in providing services. You can't rely on Seattle in the present situation for day-to-day automatic aid. Zone 3, as Chief Hagan mentioned, fire departments operate without regard to political boundaries. Closest unit will respond regardless of political boundaries. That hasn't existed in Seattle, and so the service area in North Highline has been developed between North Highline and King County Fire Protection District 2 that recognizes that reality. That's why North Highline provides services to North Erie because it's got the closest station to develop those agreements. So urban level services, highly intensive urban area, the current fire district's already providing them. If Seattle comes in, well, they have the capability to provide it. Unless they move into the current age of automatic aid agreements, they're not going to be able to maintain the level of services, particularly in ALS. And that brings us to the statutory objective of creating or preserving logical service areas. This annexation will certainly not preserve a logical service area. The logical service area is what I just described. District 2, North Highline, over decades of working together and watching their various departments grow and shrink due to annexation, have developed an efficient and logical service area. If this line is redrawn to move City of Seattle north to the south to the boundary, that changes significantly how this service area works. And so it won't preserve a logical service area, it will destroy one. Then the question is, will it also create one? And the only way it will create one is if the city of Seattle comes before you and says, we have worked out specific concrete proposals, we have plans, we have agreements that will allow us to provide a 6-minute or better ALS service in this area. And that will allow us to maximize through automatic aid, mutual aid, other agreements, fire protection services in this area. Absent those agreements, absent that specific plan, we don't believe the annexation meets the criteria or will meet the logical service area objective of the Boundary Review Board. And on that basis, we are respectfully requesting that you deny the annexation. Thank you.
Questions from the board? Mr. Lewis?
Yes, I had a question. I couldn't tell on the map exactly where Fire District 2 is. Is any portion of Fire District 2 within the annexation area?
No, Fire District 2 is the green area. The city of Berrien's annexed into Fire District 2.
Okay.
So it's the green area in that middle map there, and it runs all the way down to
Only
the
there's
park.
top of city boundary then.
Yes.
Fire District 2.
Yeah, I think it covers portions of unincorporated King County too, I believe.
And then through contract, we actually have a contract then to provide certain services?
Yes, following the annexation of the North Berrien area by Berrien, which was previously in North Highline, King County Fire District number 2 and North Highline negotiated an agreement because we had the Station 18 there. It was still ours. We transferred ownership of Station 19, although we still operate Station 19 as North Highland Fire District. And Berrien pays us some of the lost revenues from that area, and then we provide the services. The districts have a joint chief as well, which they get to address some of these issues.
Ms. Hershey?
Yes, Mr. Snare, can you please clarify the statistic on the 6-minute response time for ALS? 2 points. From what station is ALS provided and what geographic area covers the 6 minutes?
I will do my best, keeping in mind I'm a lawyer and not a fire chief, and my fire chief isn't here this evening.
There could be a chance
It's-
tomorrow if you'd like to respond.
That would be fine. Do you know what station it's at? That Chief Ada knows, it's at 28? The station that the medic unit set parked out in Berrien.
King County, South King County Medic Unit number 4. South King County Medic Unit number 4 just recently moved to downtown Berrien, and its response time into the annexation area is excellent.
So that 6 minutes extends into this North Highline.
Clearly, yes.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Mr. Schnur, would you give us your opinion about that transitional framework and in response to the elapsed time?
My opinion is, my opinion on behalf of North Highland Fire District is that it was designed to address the exact issues that we're talking about here tonight, that we would have service agreements in place so that when annexation came before the Boundary Review Board and went before the voters, we wouldn't have unanswered questions. So whether it's a legally binding agreement, I'll defer to Mr. Quinn, because he spent more time looking at that. Whether the spirit of those agreements should continue on and should have been fulfilled, I would say that they haven't been fulfilled.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Sir.
Thank you.
Joe Quinn.
Thank you. My name is Joseph Quinn. I'm the attorney for District 2. As you've heard, Fire District 2 is serving the cities of Berrien and Normandy Park. And my address is 20 Forest Glen Lane, Southwest. That's in Lakewood. But I'm the district secretary and the attorney for Berrien since about 1988. And so I'm familiar with the issues factually and the history of the relationship between the two fire departments. I would start with the objectives. That's the end. I always start at the end and work back to the beginning. The The boundary review board here has to obtain the preservation of logical service areas under 4693-180, and I think that's the lodestar by which you need to operate. You need to keep coming back to that. And I don't think we can say that some issues are merely operational. ALS service is an important service. In fact, it's a life or death service. When the dispatcher dispatches chest pain to an address, that means that's an ALS call automatically. That's probably a heart attack. So it's going to be an ALS call. You want, in the case of a heart attack, as fast a response time as you can get. Seattle has said candidly and honestly, it's 14 minutes from the station that they now have. So they need to do something about that clearly. They need to have a plan. Your job, as I see it, and I think as you see it, is to apply the factors and objectives, but you're being asked to decide something now, not later. And then the voters will be asked to decide something if it gets approved. And they'll be asked to decide now, not later, at the time of the vote. How can a boundary review board member or a voter vote intelligently on the issues they're assigned by law to vote on or to decide upon if you don't have the information? If you're told, well, the information will be provided, we're considering several options for that. It's not merely operational, it's the service that we're talking about. And that service, in this case, I want to focus on one service. I know we're special purpose districts, but that's what we do in the fire service, is we provide fire and EMS. And so when I look at this, I look at ALS service, and I think we need answers as part of this proceeding. So when I look at that, I look at factors. Applicable service agreements under 3934 RCW. We have an applicable service agreement between North Highline Fire and District 2 that's been in existence for years. And what that does for Burien Fire, for my client, is it provides service from Station 18. Station 18 will be gone. It will be an asset owned by the city of Seattle because, as Brian said, the fire district is dissolved if all of its territory. In fact, if more than 60% of its territory is taken in an annexation, then the district is dissolved and its assets are given and provided to the new provider. That's the way it works. So Station 18 will be gone. Right now, Station 18 is our primary response station for North Burien. That's why when the parties met in 2008, the five-party talks were successful and they were important. They provided for an orderly transition to anticipate that maybe part of this would go to Seattle, part would go to Burien, but we need to work these things out so that we have an orderly transition. That means things are done in order, I guess you could say. And the things, you don't put the cart before the horse. You get the plan in place, or you at least say you have a plan and you talk about it among each other and get it done. And that's what they did. The need for the North Burien station was acknowledged by all in those five-party talks, and that's why King County, under certain circumstances, agreed that it would provide land. Land only, not a building. We'd still have to build a fire station, which, as we've learned from recent experience in Burien, is an expensive proposition. All my clients that are building fire stations all over western Washington are finding that that can cost you $8 to $10 million to build a station, but it sure would be nice to get the land. We paid in an amicable transaction over $1 million to get the station that is now Station 28, which, by the way, is at 146th Street. And the response time from there for King County Medic 1, which is now our tenant, we just have a lease started June 1st. The response time into this area, that's the annexation area, would be less than 6 minutes. It would be more like 4 minutes. It's brand new, so we can't test that presumption. That station was at SeaTac. I mean, that King County Medic 1 unit was in the city of SeaTac until recently, and wanted to get out of there apparently and get to a better location. We were able to make that happen through months of negotiation. So now they're there. ALS service is there. Could we have an automatic aid agreement between King County Medic 1 and Seattle? That'd be great. We wouldn't be a party to it. We're only a fire district. We provide BLS service. But let's look back at this agreement. It was great. It was fair to all concerned. If now it can be just ignored or disavowed under the rather lame, I would call it, excuse that, oh, it expired. That's like saying, well, that was an issue then. That was a good idea then, but it's not a good idea now. Well, why is it not a good idea now? The same circumstances are presented. We still need a northern station. We still don't have one. what's happened here is that Burien Incorporated, not that many years ago in my memory, but Burien Incorporated, and that hurt North Highline Fire. It would have hurt them greatly, but what we decided was the tax money collected in that part of Burien that was in North Highline Fire District would be turned over to them, and we'd work out a reciprocal service agreement. We give them the tax money in North Burien. We pay them the tax money that's collected in North Burien so that they can service from Station 18. If Seattle would say tonight, automatic aid would be great, we'll serve you from Station 18, this would be a lot different picture, but they're not saying that because they really can't at this point. So I look at it as if Seattle and King County reneged on the five-party talks. Nothing's really changed. Why should we not profit? Why should we suffer from the delay? Burien Fire and North Highline Fire didn't cause the delay. Why should we suffer from the fact that it took longer for the process to take place? That's just government. It's normal. So the remedy, as Brian said, is do not approve this annexation until you're satisfied, until Seattle shows you that there is preservation of the logical service area now provided to the North Burien residents and taxpayers. We're left with no North Burien station, no Station 18. We have Station 19, as Brian said. They deeded that to my client, and in return released it back for $1 a year so they can continue to use it. We work cooperatively together. Not only do we share a fire chief, but we share battalion chiefs across those lines. Automatic aid is a great thing, by the way. In Pierce County, where I work extensively, and South King County, where both Brian and I work extensively, automatic aid is common. It's common around the country. If you look at Phoenix, you look at San Francisco, all the major cities, automatic aid with their neighbors is done everywhere. I don't know why it's not really done in Seattle, which they candidly admit it isn't done much. But it's big in Zone 3, Southern King County. It's come a long way in Zone 1. It's huge in Pierce County. We do it all the time. Between Tacoma and South King Fire, across the county boundary, we serve I-5. We serve the northbound lanes from Tacoma. They serve the southbound lanes from Federal Way, South King Fire and Rescue, which is my client. And so automatic aid is done all the time. It's simply this. We change the run cards. We change the CAD on the computer to say, if you call 911 from this address, you're going to get service from them over there. Puyallup and my clients in Pierce County have been doing that for 20 years. It's not rocket science. It's done all the time in various parts of the country, and it would solve the problem here. But there are no negotiations. They mentioned June 29th. That's great. They agreed to meet and talk. There's no negotiations for an automatic aid agreement that are ongoing right now. So, as I see it, we just need more information. We need more commitment. We don't need promises. We need commitment from the parties that they will work together and then follow through on that. We're willing to work with them. They need to be willing to work with us. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions from the board? Mr. McCready?
I have a question. Could the MOU that expired on 2012 have been extended? And did you pursue that?
I don't think anybody pursued it. Annexation just sort of languished in terms of the final total annexation. There were things going on, as Mr. Schnur said, like the sliver by the river, the Delta Marine, the efforts by Tukwila. Those are marginal. What really matters to us is if King County District 11 goes away, if it gets dissolved and goes away, that has an impact on Burien Fire. All those little things really didn't. So no, nobody tried to extend it. Seattle never came to us and said, we're still willing. King County never did either.
Mr. Coleman?
Yeah, Mr. Quinn, could you just take a minute to describe the status of Station 19? It's come up in a couple of different ways, but just take a minute and let us know who owns it, who operates it, and what will happen.
What happened when the 2010 annexation of what I refer to as North Burien now, when the annexation of Area X, I guess it was, happened in 2010, there was, the city of Burien acquired that land, and since the city of Burien is annexed by law into Fire District 2, my client, it was decided that there should be an asset transfer, just like when any city annexes a large portion of the fire district. So the asset transfer that would take place would not be to the city of Burien. They certainly weren't entitled to get it. My client was entitled to get it. So what we did was, we stood in the shoes of the city, so we said, we would like to have an asset transfer, but we don't expect you to come up with cash. And so, because that would have had, again, another impact on North Highline, which we didn't want to hurt them. So we said, if you simply give us a fee simple interest title to Station 19, we'll lease it back to you for a year, let you use it just as if you owned it, and we'll have that asset on our books so that the asset transfer was taken care of by law. So it was more or less to take care of the asset transfer statutes than anything else. They owed us about, if I can remember, over $1 million in that asset transfer, and we took Station 19 as part of that transfer.
So District 2 is the owner of the station, but North Highline is the, operates it.
Just operates it now under a lease. And so if there were to be an annexation now, it's already in the city of Burien, so it wouldn't be in this annexation area at all. That station's not located, and it's also not an asset of North Highline Fire.
Correct.
See, so it wouldn't be affected by this annexation, I guess is what I'm saying.
Thank you. Well, no, wait, well, one more thing. Well, if the annexation occurred in North Highline Fire District, it was dissolved, then there wouldn't be any personnel to be in Station 19.
No, but District 2, my client would own it, so it would probably use it. We just don't find that Station 19 is a very good response station for the western portion of our district. The response time from 19 over to the west is not good enough by our standards to serve North Burien. That number 18 is actually better located, but obviously that'll be gone.
Okay, thank you.
In other cases we've had, the contracts that are owned by an agency, or the contracts that agencies have, when someone assumes that agency, they assume all the contracts, and they have to fulfill those contracts as if they were the original agency. So how would that affect your arrangements? Seattle would have to step in, and if you have a contract to
Our service agreement with North Highline is an annual contract.
so it would only last a
It
year.
expires, it has a provision that it expires at the end of this year, or it expires upon annexation.
Oh,
So
okay.
we've addressed that in the contract.
Okay.
Thank you.
One more question. I'm trying to understand the North Burien fire service arrangement shortfalls with annexation of North Highline. We have a response brief from the city of Seattle which indicates that the fire chief's assistant fire chief's willingness to consider fire service provision to North Burien, the North Burien portion of Fire District 2 by a contract similar to that which currently exists between Fire District 2 and 11, and that the upcoming meeting that's scheduled for June 29th is intended to be a three-way discussion between Seattle Fire, Fire District 11, and Fire District 12 to discuss terms of such an agreement. So to me that sounds like progress.
Sounds like a possibility.
Well, providing a contract that's similar to the current one, you would point to
That
that
would be
being
quite a few
shortfall.
differences. But I suppose he means that the essence of it would be that service would come from Station 18 into North Burien, across the boundary line into North Burien from Seattle. And like I said, we certainly entertain an automatic aid agreement. We'd also certainly entertain a service agreement. But there hasn't been any indication until this hearing was scheduled in opposition to the annexation came forward that there would be any interest whatsoever in doing this. You would think that if they were proposing an annexation such as this, and a year ago, it hasn't been set for hearing until now, but it's been because these parties talked in 2008 about the impacts on Darien. If they didn't know, why did they propose to provide land for a station from King County or any of the parties? They saw in 2008 what the impact was on North Darien, because they realized and they appreciated at that time, based upon our representatives at the meetings, the only way we got service into North Darien that was an adequate response time was to come from Station 18. They knew that. That's been known for years. Thank you.
Thank you.
That finishes agency testimony. I think we're going to try to wrap up at about 9:30, but that does give us some time for public testimony this evening. If there are people who cannot return tomorrow evening, I'd like to give you first priority. And I would begin with Lois Shipper, because she has already informed me that tonight is her only night. So after that, if you are only able to be here tonight, please raise your hand and give me your name, and I'll try to accommodate you this evening.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board. My name is Lois Shipper, and I live in the unincorporated area currently at 10735 22nd Avenue Southwest, with a Seattle address, although I'm not a Seattle resident. I'd like to speak. I'd like to consider one thing. I'd like to look around the room here. I'd like to think about the makeup of the unincorporated area. It's about 70% non-Caucasian, and if you look around the room, I'd say we need to do some different outreach. I know that you posted notices in the paper, et cetera, and I would appreciate any effort that the board can do to reach those non-English speaking communities and the diverse communities of White Center.
Okay. I will let you know that every poster we put up went up in Vietnamese, Spanish, and English. We posted in community centers. I'm not saying that we reached everybody. We posted in community centers, we posted in clinics, we posted in, for example, the Vietnamese market. And might not yet be online, but we posted in 39 places, and virtually all of those were done in 3 languages.
So I work in Health and Human Services in White Center, and I know that often we need personal outreach to reach communities and have them understand our processes here. They're often newly immigrated, new arrivals to the country. So I appreciate that, but I do think that for you to hear from this audience is one part of information. There are resident meetings at Seal Gardens, there are resident meetings at Greenbridge. There are other ways to at least inform those communities. I don't know that they have to come to a board meeting, but
we did reach out and offer to speak at those communities, and so far that was just not made available to us. I'm not trying to disagree with you. In fact, we have translator and interpreters here in Trinity too, and hope that we will get a bigger outreach from that community to this room.
so is there an opportunity for me to let those communities know
Yeah,
again?
I was
Okay,
just about to
perfect.
say that, and they will be welcome here tomorrow night. We intend to have interpreters here tomorrow night as well.
Okay, so that was just about 10 seconds of my time. I'd also like to talk about your duty to preserve and provide municipal, or the duty of you to consider provision of municipal and government services. Like I said, I work in Health and Human Services, and I see that the opportunity to receive services under what exists in the city of Seattle is a far greater expanse than what we have right now through King County Services. They don't run Health and Human Services. There are some health department services, but and I would say I'm going to speak to fire first, because that's really been a topic of issue tonight. And we had a fire in our backyard. Some kids were setting off firecrackers. Our hillside went up in flames. It was on a dead end below us. There were no hydrants on that street. And I'll tell you who responded. 2 Seattle fire tanker trucks responded to bring the water to put that fire out and preserve that from coming up the hillside to our homes. And from where I sit in that area, I would rather be part of Seattle and have all of the resources of the Seattle Fire Department without there having to be an aid agreement for them to come and serve my residents in case of an issue. I also had a medical issue myself, and at the time, medics had to come from SeaTac, from the military road station, and it was, I think, about a 15-minute response time. I do understand that that recently changed with the transition to the downtown Burien location. I'd also like to talk about schools. I'm excited that the school boundary districts don't change with annexation. I have 2 kids that graduated from Highline schools. I've been very happy with Highline schools. What I am excited about is that there's a Seattle Family and Education Levy. There are enormous resources that come through that levy to serve the students in those schools, and we have a lot of need in the schools in the North Highline area, and they would benefit from those after-school services, health services that come to the school. They're working on responses to communities with trauma, and so I think all of those would be additional beneficial services that we would not receive in those North Highline schools if we were not annexed to Seattle. And I also think it's important for the consequences that there be discussion here about the consequences of not annexing, and the county talked about their inability to support our neighborhood with county resources. 67%, voted not to go to Burien, but I think there's a large portion of that no vote that are people that don't want to be annexed, and I'm not sure, we've talked about what Burien offers previously, we've talked now about what Seattle offers. There hasn't been, I don't think, enough education and discussion about what happens if nobody takes us and we continue to languish. Already our snow response has decreased. Like I said, I work in Health and Human Services, and we only had roads plowed, blocks away from our clinic, so folks could not get there if they needed to during that really bad snowstorm a few years ago because the county had reduced their services. So I would just really encourage you. I think Seattle is the best option for this very urban, very diverse neighborhood. Seattle has a great neighborhood support plan, as they talked about, and we would become another neighborhood of Seattle that would be eligible for all those planning, matching grants, and health and human services. So thank you for the opportunity, and thanks for letting me go since I can't come tomorrow night.
Thanks. Question for the board?
Martha Hoffer.
Good evening. I'm a resident of Seattle. I am a retiree from the King County Library System. So I'm going to talk about, during this, a little bit about the library system. Just down the street is a brand new White Center Library. $8.8 million construction costs paid for by a bond issue from King County Library. The document that you folks have about the library reciprocity agreement is in your packet has expired, so there is no agreement at the moment. The gentleman spoke about reciprocity, and I guess from my perspective, I would say there are all kinds of levels of reciprocity. I can go as a Seattle resident and join the King County Library as long as I have a card and get books there. Up until recently, I could not put any items on hold. For 10 years, Seattle residents were not allowed to have holds at King County. That has recently been modified, and I can have 10 holds of books, and some of the holds for e-materials. I've not reached the maximum on that, so I don't know what would happen there. So I'm going to say that there are also other things that Seattle Public Library does differently than King County does. So I guess my question is, what's going to happen to the White Center Library? I mean, right now it's limbo, and you really need a neighborhood library. I mean, 17,000 people deserve one. I can't say that people, King County residents and Seattle residents are not treated equally for library services. I am really concerned about the policing. As you know, Seattle right now is 200 police short. The mayor has asked for 100 new police, and we'll be raising business taxes for that. The family and education levy, great idea, but I wonder what's going to happen with that portion of Highline School District that's not going to be eligible for services under that. And finally, political representation. We in Seattle have just gone to a district for the city council, and, depending upon when anything would go forward, people who live in this unincorporated area might have some time when they would not have representation because we'll have to do a redistricting.
Questions from the board?
Thank you.
Ms. Hershey?
I missed your name, sorry.
Pardon?
What was your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Martha Toffrey, Tofferi.
Okay, Ms. Toffrey, thank you. You reminded me of the same question I had, which was additional explanation about the White Center Library. So I'll defer to City of Seattle to answer that into our next rebuttal, if you can. Thank you. Thanks for the reminder.
Lana Anthony, followed by Dennis Eaton. Lana Anthony. Sorry.
Good evening, I'm Lana Anthony, I live in the unincorporated area, 10731 22nd Avenue Southwest. And personally, I'd like to hear much more from Seattle. I believe that Seattle has a lot to offer, and we should be allowed the opportunity to vote. Thank you.
I'm Dennis Eaton, I live at 107 Road, 28th Avenue Southwest, in the unincorporated area. I have some questions and concerns for Seattle. White Center would be one of the poorest areas of Seattle, and I'm not clear that Seattle would devote enough services to this area. What is the city planning to do with the money that they get from the state tax rebates that they're getting to annex this area? Will the money actually be used for improvements and services in this area, or will it go into the general fund and perhaps be used for something else? That's one question. Also, my question echoes Martha's, what's going to happen to the White Center Library? We need a library there. I just don't think the one that's 35th and Henderson is really close enough for a lot of people. One of my bigger concerns is the zoning. Right now, the area that I'm in is zoned R6, which means single-family residence, 6 lots per acre maximum. I understand that if Seattle annexes us, it will be in some zoning that requires or allows backyard residences. And one of the things I like about this area is the residential feel. I think I would like to have backyard residences, 1-story or 2 stories going up in our backyards. So I understand that Seattle, somehow we're going to have to get annexed eventually anyway. But Seattle is the best option for us. I think we need to have more answers from Seattle if they want to take care of this area. Not the budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rose Clark, oh, sorry. Rose Clark, followed by Pat Lemaine and Carol Sivers.
Thank you very much. I'm Rose Clark. I am a former deputy mayor of Burien, and I'm a 40-plus year volunteer with the Highline School District, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about tonight.
Seattle and the Seattle School District are two separate and distinct legal bodies that have worked together for years. In the Highline School District, there are 4 separate cities: Burien, Des Moines, Normandy Park, SeaTac, as well as unincorporated King County. And these cities work together with Highline School District very well. While they have these good working relationships, having Seattle as part of the district raises different problems that should be worked out before an annexation proposal goes to the voters. For the Highline School District, having major increased zoning in any one part of the district can cause district-related problems throughout the district and thus through all of the cities. So let me explain. Similar zoning has been in place throughout the cities for the whole 75-year history of the Highline School District. Growth has been manageable. However, if Seattle indeed does annex North Highline, there is concern that the higher density that Seattle normally has would have unforeseen impacts that would impact the whole Highline School District. If current Seattle density were to become a part of North Highline planning, it could have 2 potential impacts on the Highline School District. One, overcrowded schools in this part of Seattle could cause Highline schools to have to implement boundary changes that would fall throughout the district. And secondly, the same thing would happen potentially with having to buy land and build new schools. So I have 2 proposals to offer you. That the annexation process be slowed to allow time for the Seattle School District and the Highline School District to negotiate and consider if the affected Highline School District schools should be transferred to the Seattle School District with the appropriate asset transfers. Or that the city of Seattle would agree that their zoning would be more reflective of the zoning throughout the Highline School District. The residents of the cities of Burien, Des Moines, Normandy Park, and SeaTac must be protected from impacts that would affect their schools through property tax regulation. And from my point of view, create a potential school district tax throughout the area just caused by one city's annexation. So thank you for your time. I also sent you some testimony by me. So
And that's in the board members' file.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pat Lemaine and Carol Sibbert.
Yes.
And these will be the last 2 talk to the board tonight.
I have some show and tell.
I'll look at it. 2 more.
This is what's been happening on Myers Way lately. You can pass these down.
Well,
Mark?
huh?
No.
Mark? If you want, I would be more than happy to upload these to the site we have for public
If
record.
you want the board to look at them, we have to make it part of the record.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, I would be more than happy to do that for you.
Thank you.
You probably might find it.
Well, it'll just take a second, but if you're gonna refer to them in your testimony, it would be a cleaner record if we refer to them by number.
They're not gonna be, anyway, we can work on that.
Do we mark them or?
Anyway,
No, Angelica, could you mark these maps, please, as Exhibit C? Thank you.
yes, my name is Malcolm Wynn. I live at 10127 Myers Way South in unincorporated King County. Lots to talk about, but mainly I'm going to concern ourselves on the homeless situation that is all happening on the Seattle side of our border on Myers Way. For many of us, the situation on Myers Way has become intolerable. At a recent city council meeting, it was remarked that the Myers Way RV camp is a model of how to run an RV safe zone. For us who live on Myers Way, it has become a hub for drug dealing, laundering site for stolen goods, has had 2 people die from overdose in under 6 months, is a contributor to poisoning our streams and salmon habitat, an unsightly mess with mounds of garbage and human waste, a public nuisance that has made many of us feel unsafe in our own neighborhood, and encourages those who like this way of life not to seek help and/or to integrate back into society. Myers Way has become Seattle's human dumping ground. Seattle should be focused on discouraging this kind of behavior and put more pressure on the homeless to seek the help that is offered and that they need. Furthermore, it is the Myers Way mess as an example of how Seattle is going to treat North Highline if we get annexed. King County enforces their parking, trespassing, and vagrancy laws for all. If you are homeless in Seattle, Seattle does not. What I am afraid of, and many of my neighbors are also, is if we get annexed by Seattle, is the same leniency they have toward Myers Way will extend to the streets in front of our homes, just like what's happening in Ballard. Also, finding out about this meeting from a paper stapled to a power pole is outrageous. My girl, Carol here has a photo taken of one of your power poles. It's just strictly in English. Last time this annexation went through, you guys had the decency of doing a mass mailing to everybody in our community. Can I assume that this is going to be as dirty an election as the last one? I mean, you need to let us know what's going on and just how you've done it. Like I said, I didn't find out about this meeting until Thursday. For me, the last annexation attempt quite literally turned into a battle of good versus evil. Or to put it another way, if you know a woman is being abused by her boyfriend, would you encourage her to marry her abuser? What Seattle is doing to our community is abuse. Just go down to Myers Way right now and see what's going on. Okay, I'm just about done. Anyway, Burien did not respect our community. It appears Seattle doesn't either. I would encourage you to come out to our community and actually see the problem and to deal with it. Because this is really a big issue. Like I say, there's a whole ton of other things, but I think my time's probably running out. But anyway, have a good one. Any questions? Mr. Lee?
I did have a question. I came up Myers Way when I came to the meeting today, and so I didn't know where the city limits were there. And could you describe a little bit about, I saw a lot of campers on the side of the road and off to the side.
Right, that's all in the Seattle boundary. It's just due north. I can point to your map over there. But basically, all the homeless you saw are in Seattle. And as soon as you run into homes, you're down in unincorporated King County.
Okay. Because there weren't any homes in that immediate area.
Correct. That's all city-owned property that's up for sale right now. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
I could waive my time or come back tomorrow, but we did get a picture of just the one in English that's on my phone, so that would be another exhibit, I guess. And I do believe that the library thing was sort of, the way they made it sound as we were going to be able to keep the White Center Library, just for others that, I've been to most of the meetings locally around here. The experts spoke on that already, and so from what I know, it will be, either way we can have it, but I'm, for the record, against annexation as of now until we can solve the issues. And I don't know if there's a time that we can show these to people, or what's the procedure on the photos?
I'll respond to that.
Okay, go ahead.
They're not part of the record, and the board will look at them as part of the school break.
And so do you keep those for the 10 days? I think I read them.
Keep them
Something.
until the board decides, then we
Okay.
can send for another 30 days or.
I think that's fine, I just don't know if he got to show that, so he's leaving that, so. And,
And frankly, after that 30-day period, if the board's decision should be challenged in Superior Court, then the exhibit's got a Superior Court.
okay, might be worth what we've done, yeah, okay, just letting it out, and I may be back tomorrow, I'm not sure, but I know he's back.
Because it's not quite 9:30, I'll call a few more people. I'm sorry, I can't read this handwriting, but I believe it's Sue Samsa. Oh, okay.
I can explain to them if they can't. If they want to part of
Yeah, Brian Hastings, 606 Southwest 116th Street, Seattle. I'm here to talk about the evergreen pole. Not as sexy as the big, bold firefighters, but we provide an important service. My nonprofit's been running the evergreen pole for the last 6 years. We run it because this area can't support it. And in 6 years, we've taught 10,000 of our kids to swim. 10,000. Of those 10,000, 6,000 have been either reduced or free. And that shows about the impoverished kids that we have coming to the pool. I'm happy to do that. Happy to do that. But every other pool in King County built at the same time, when they all reverted back after the bond ended in 2010, they all get $50,000 to $100,000 to keep the systems of the pool running. We have no money in this area. I go out and I fundraise constantly. We need more financial support. We got a lot of money that way, over there. That's what we need. And it's crazy that we aren't looking at the financial surety that we're going to get with that. That's our community resource, that pool that we all use. We've taught your grandkids to swim. And we'll keep doing it. But that whole system are going to fail. We can only go so far. So, I'm pleading with you, we need the extra support. It's not here, it is not here anywhere. I visit all of the councils, I visit all the politicians, I go to all the agencies. I get as many grants as we can get. There's nothing left. And I'm one small entity, I get it. But I'm not unlike the others that want to provide services to this area. Okay? That's it, I'm going to cut you free. I am not a lawyer. I wanted to say that. We don't come up there. Thank you for your time.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Plante? So are you for or against Seattle annexing the area?
Oh, gee, I thought I made that clear. I'm for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was my question. You went to the left when you said you were looking for.
Am I wrong? Wherever Seattle is good. Yes, thank you. Good catch. 606 Southwest 116. It's right next to Evergreen High School. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yeah, I gave you a letter too. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Earl Long. Earl Lane. Sue Samsa. Mark Upkus.
I'll pass and give somebody else an opportunity.
Okay. Christine Edgar. Boy, we got shy people here all of a sudden. There we go. Christine's.
Hello, my name's Justine Edgar, can you hear me? And I live at 1811 Southwest 152nd Street here in Washington. And I was present at the last annexation hearings that were in this area. And so I'm a bit familiar with what the issues were then. And one of the rules of annexation, and I don't think I need to educate you folks, is that any area that is taken by an entity is to be provided with services at the level that it currently has or greater. So those individuals who've stepped forward and said, oh, we'll get less services, well, that is not one of the conditions of annexation. They must abide by the rules of annexation that have been set out. The second thing is, at the last annexation hearings, one of the things that again was a problem with these fire stations. And the ruling of this board at that time was that you could rule as a board, and the particulars of operation and the agreements after you had made the ruling could still be taken care of. And so, in fact, you did make a ruling to allow possible annexation to Union without all the particulars having been worked out, the operation And I believe that in part of the thing, and I'm not sure because it's so unclear to me, of what came out of the 2012 agreement was worked out after you'd already made a ruling about it. So I'm not sure why there's now this big flurry that this cannot go on when this was allowed before. Okay? As long as there was a provision that individuals would work together, they would work together in a positive fashion, that the board could rule prior to that all being worked out. Another thing that I would like to make a point of is that Seattle is much more equipped to provide human services to this area, and that came out in 2012. When Burien attempted to do it, it had $200,000 for it, and the cost to run the area, and this was in 2012, $1.5 million. So really, the only city that has the capacity to provide for the human services in this area is Seattle. For that reason, I urge you to approve this to move forward with the city of Seattle. Thank you.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I think somebody from excuse me, King County Housing Authority.
Yes, we're almost to you, so why don't we just plunge ahead?
So you testifying as a private citizen? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Maris-Robson, and I'm here tonight representing King County Housing Authority. For those of you who are familiar, within the White Center area, we operate two Hope 6 mixed income communities, Yola Gardens, which is right where we're at, as well as Greenbridge, which is just down the street, which many of you are probably familiar with. Between our mixed income communities and our Housing Choice Voucher Program, we house approximately 10% of the population in White Center. And so for us, for a city to be able to bring in an urban level of services is very important to us. We house seniors, we house disabled persons, and we house working families. Along with that, we house 10% of the kids who go to Highline schools. So we're very interested in getting those services, the preschool for all. We've made our own investments in education. We have Head Start facilities at both of those mixed income communities, and we think that bringing preschool for all would be a joy, as well as the after-school programs. There will be no change in operations. We will retain those properties. And so with that, we support a higher level of services, and trust that the operational issues would be worked out on or near an annexation. Any questions?
Questions from the board?
Yes, the title of your organization is King County Housing Authority, and is your service area exactly consistent with King County boundaries?
Not exactly, close. It's King County except for Seattle and the city of Renton. Although we do have some properties in the city of Renton that were there before Renton formed their own housing authority.
Also excludes those with housing.
For new development. So, King County Housing Authority has been around, formed 76 years ago. Renton Housing Authority is much younger. So properties that we have within the city bounds of Renton that were there before they formed their own housing authority, we retain those. So after an annexation, King County Housing Authority would continue to retain the properties that we own and operate in White Center.
And does the agency have plans or policies on growth and services, in other words, new properties and housing?
We wish we could anywhere in King County. We don't have any plans at this time for new public housing. There is still in development at the Greenbridge community for private developers to bring in
there's no plans for more public housing.
And where is that located, the one you just mentioned?
Greenbridge is off of Roxbury and 8th.
So in which
Just north of here.
jurisdiction? In which jurisdiction is that?
It's currently
It's
in
in the
annexation.
annexation.
Yeah, it's in the annexation area.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. We're going to conclude tonight's public testimony at this point and continue tomorrow night, same location at 7 o'clock, June 14th. There are others that signed up and indicated they're likely to provide more testimony. After that, the board will close public testimony and move into deciding deliberations.
Do you need me to do anything or take that?